Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jay Stevens, hockey insider, overall good dude. All right, Jay, a lot of people say, Pour Some Sugar on Me, best Def Leppard song. No, I will always go Photograph.
Oh, man. Well, it's great that you're bringing that up right now because I'm going next week to see Def Leppard in Vegas. But I actually have a Hysteria lyric tattooed on my arm, so I'm going to go with Hysteria.
Yes. Nice. Good for you. How you doing, by the way?
I am doing great. It's hard not to be doing great. The Mammoth are on fire. The Olympics are about to start. I mean, hockey's just in full bloom right now.
I'm telling you, the Four Nations, the byproduct of that has got me really fired up for the Olympics. And I've always enjoyed hockey in the Olympics, but the addition of the Mammoth a year and a half ago and really getting knee-deep in hockey and then watching all heck break loose in the Four Nations last year, I am fired up for this year's Olympics.
Yeah, me too. And it's I've had some pretty interesting conversations recently with people about, the difference between the Four Nations and the Olympics because, the IIHF really does call games differently and they kind of shy away from the physical play. And a lot of people think that USA-Canada matchup, if it comes, won't be as physical. And I'm like, I think it's going to be physical. I think they'll take the risk of some of the penalties and they'll be throwing the body around quite a bit. I think it's going to live up to the Four Nations and maybe surpass that. It's just sad that we can't see Russia in this. I wish they'd get their act together so we could see their athletes because that's just another, they've got so many talented athletes, especially in hockey, that I'd love to see those matchups as well.
So we had, and I forget who it was, but we had a NHL writer come on, and he mentioned he didn't like the way that Team USA built their roster. He wanted it to be a little bit more offensive-driven, didn't necessarily like the emphasis on defense and the goaltending. But then I talked to Bill Armstrong, and Bill's like, that's exactly the way I would have built it if he was in charge. Where are you at on this year's roster?
I was upset that they left Robertson off of the roster, and then I listened to Bill Guerin talk about how he built the roster and why he built the roster, and Canada's kind of in the same boat. They basically built the roster to play against each other, anticipating that real physical matchup. So they went with guys that had international experience, and not just junior level, but actual adult level international experience, and that advanced far into international playoffs, and it had real physical games too. It's one of those things, and I bring it up all the time about how the Utah Mammoth are built, and they're small and they're fast. But when you get to playoffs or when you get to international games and you're playing for a gold medal, big guys throwing the body, it's just like a boxing match like we've talked about before. They're going to hit you all through the first period. They're going to hit you all through the second period. So to the point, when you get to the third period, you're not playing those offensive fancy games that you wanted to because you've taken so many body blows. So you want guys that have experienced that before, know how to deal with it, know how to play through it. So I think USA and Canada built their rosters exactly the same way to basically battle each other. There's plenty of offensive firepower out there. When you see Clayton Keller on the fourth line, who's one of the best passers in the league, you realize that there's got to be a lot of other talent in there to put him on a fourth line, right?
How much can this help a player in their NHL career playing these types of games in this type of environment?
It's definitely a way to gain more experience and to build more confidence. It could go the other way too. You're really being held out with the best of the best of the best. And we always know that that's what the NHL is, but when you just take the best player out of, off every team, it's almost like an NHL all-star team, put their country flag on their chest, they're going to play even harder, and it makes it harder to play against. It teaches you those long-time lessons that you can't get anywhere else. And if you adapt and overcome that, you have way more confidence going back into the NHL. And this is going to sound absurd, but the NHL feels a little bit slower when you come back from the Olympics. And you can see guys, that have played in the Olympics. Yeah, you think they're going to be more tired, but honestly, they've played at that elevated level with that elevated pressure. Every game's basically a playoff game. And they come back more confident and more comfortable playing in the NHL.
Jay Stevens joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We'll get back to international play, but we got to talk about the Mammoth. Had that 2-game skid after the heater, and I think, was there a little bit of a hangover after that Carolina game that kind of bled into that Dallas game?
Yeah, it definitely could have been. You'd like to think you would build off of that game, but you do have such an emotional high that it's hard to go out the next night and play again. Not to mention they were playing against a Dallas team that's really figuring themselves out right now, and they're tough to play against, and they have a decent power play, and that's really the difference of that Dallas game. I thought the Mammoth played well. It just comes down to specialty teams, and Utah has the worst power play in the league, and Dallas doesn't, and they popped the one power play goal, and then they got the other empty netter, and they just got to figure out this power play, and I think the Utah Mammoth will be a lot more dangerous.
How hard is it to recover from a game like Carolina? Because, I mean, 3 goals in 2 minutes, and to come away at one point leading, 4-2 with 2 minutes left and not coming away with a point, period, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's a heartbreaker, right? And you had all the momentum, and you're riding that huge wave, and then all of a sudden, what you had done just a few nights ago happens to you, or vice versa. That's the thing about the NHL. You have so many games coming up, and you play so many in a week that it's hard to celebrate a big win, and you definitely can't get caught looking back on a bad loss. But, they're humans, so of course they're going to, and they're going to get skittish, and they're going to worry about, do we have a big enough lead, or, just questioning their own abilities sometimes. But, these are professional athletes. They play a lot of games in a short amount of time, and this is just part of that preparation that Bill Armstrong always talks about. He wants them in these games. And in the long run, losing a game like that or winning a game like that, the games that they won where they came from behind, and the games where they lost where they had the lead, that'll teach them those lessons going into next season. This season, the goal of the Utah Mammoth was to make the playoffs. And, the sights look pretty firm on that. It looks like the Utah Mammoth are going to squeak into the playoffs. And then, obviously, next year you're going to want to be 7 points better than you were this year and go further into the playoffs. So as bad as it is to see as a fan, those lessons for these players, especially the younger players on the Utah Mammoth, that could go a long way in the next couple seasons.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too, because when I talked to Bill Armstrong about it, I mentioned, hey, how do you put that behind you? How do you forget about it? He's like, we don't want to forget about it. We want those scars to really set in, and we learn from those scars, and we reference those scars, and that it's part of the growing and maturation process. Not something we wanted to happen, but if it did happen, let's learn from it, and let's always reference it and be part of our DNA going forward.
Yeah, let it happen now, right? Instead of late in the playoffs when you actually have a chance at maybe winning the cup or winning your first series of the playoffs. Let those mistakes and those lessons happen now when you can afford it during the regular season rather than later. And it's just one of those crazy things with the NHL, too. If you look back at how many times, like with Tampa Bay, Detroit back in the day, all these teams that win the Stanley Cup were either in the conference finals or in the Stanley Cup final the year before and lost. And then they take all those lessons with them into the next season and then win the cup. So it really does work out that way. It always sounds like, that's just lip service, somebody saying things like, we're learning every game. But if you look back in the history of the NHL, the teams that have won have suffered some pretty bad losses, including Stanley Cup losses. So it's legit.
Jay Stevens right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. But overall, this team has played extremely well. Do you concern yourself a little bit with this long break, losing a little momentum, or is it just so important for guys to heal up and get ready for this stretch run?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say which one's better. But where the Utah Mammoth are positioned right now, I think they can keep the momentum that they've had. And more importantly, for the Mammoth, getting Cooley back and getting Kerfoot back and be able to balance the roster out. We've had the Mammoth had a ton of people step up. And we've been able to watch Yamamoto, who's been in and out of the lineup, come in and just prove that he really belongs to be in the NHL. And he's put a lot of points on the board. You saw Daniel Boot got sent back down to the AHL today, so he's going to get some more experience during the break. And, Sergachev's down. He's going to get more experience during the break playing in the AHL. So I think these guys are going to grow, and then the guys that are all banged up are going to heal, and that's only good things for the Mammoth. I think at this point I would take the healing over keeping the momentum going. I think they pick up right where they left off, and we'll see, a really positive team. We'll know right away because they start after the Olympic break with the Avalanche, and the Avalanche have been suffering a little bit, but that'll be a welcome back to the NHL for sure.
How is it difficult when you've got a star player who obviously needs to be showcased and get his opportunities, but he's been out of the lineup for so long? Is there a little bit of an adjustment period trying to work him back into the lineup?
Yeah, of course there's going to be, but it's funny, I see it online. People are like, I don't know, we're winning so well. What do you do? Well, you put him back in the lineup because he's one of your top guys. There's really no question. You just put him right back where he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be our second-line center, and that's right where you want Cooley to be. Then you figure out who you want centering. It's going to be Schmaltz, is going to be with Keller and Krause up front. So you just see everybody else move down, and maybe Stenlund is in the stands, or, maybe somebody else, a guy like Stenlund has to come and not play center and will be on a right wing, and you see O'Brien in the stands. But, yeah, you do everything you can to get Cooley back in the game immediately, get him as comfortable as possible immediately. And I'd expect to see him playing, 20 minutes a night right off the bat and, watching him get those points back. And he's missed a lot of games. He's still one of our top 7 scorers.
That's crazy to think about. How cool was it with Schmaltz getting the hat trick the other night?
Yeah, so cool to see. It's funny because, like I mentioned, Yamamoto, and then because he's at the end of his contract, and so is Schmaltz, as everybody knows. Everybody wants to get him re-signed, and Schmaltz is just putting in the work to making sure he gets a good deal. And that, him and Keller have such a long history of that chemistry together, and Schmaltz is proving it every night. A couple hat tricks this season. He's just saying, hey, sign me. I'm going to stay here, and Keller's going to keep setting me up, and I'm going to keep paying it off. So it's been fun to watch, and he's definitely proving his worth.
Do you think that's a priority to this organization to re-sign him?
100%. It has to be. I mean, again, Keller counts on Schmaltz, and Keller, a lot of time, you can tell he really appreciates what Barrett Hayton does as well, the little things without the puck, the positioning, the way he can draw defense away. Schmaltz does a lot of those things too. And it's funny to see. They're playing with Krause tonight. It's going to be interesting to see how that Keller-Schmaltz-Krause line does, because I always like to see him with Hayton, because Hayton and Schmaltz seem to do those little things and create space and let Keller find those guys, and Schmaltz just seems to be the perfect finisher for that. So, yeah, I mean, it's got to be their number one priority going into, I would say, even the second half of the season. I think they'd want to get him extended before he becomes a free agent.
You see Tej have the big night, 6-point night the other night, and WHL Player of the Year. Is he on pace to where he needs to be at this point in his career? Yeah,
100%. Exciting to see him playing. I'm one of those guys that goes home and geeks out and watches. I watch AHL games and I watch major junior games and get to see a guy like Tej play. And Baudouin has been playing really well. And Denoyer, and Denoyer is playing with Gabe Smith, who's also a draft pick. And just seeing all the Mammoth draft picks just tear up their junior leagues has been really exciting. And you can't mention the Mammoth prospects without talking about Michael Hrabel, who's playing at UMass and just having a phenomenal season. So I expect to see some roster changes next season. I don't expect to see Iginla or Denoyer playing for the Mammoth next year. I think they take a whole season in the AHL to cook a little bit. I could see Gabe Smith breaking the lineup, and I could see Baudouin breaking the lineup.
All right, so I saw you tweet out something, and I've kind of meant to ask you about this and try to learn more. So the scoring setup in the NHL, you get obviously 2 points for the win, but if it's a loss in overtime, you still get a point. Do you think losing teams should still be rewarded with a point in overtime?
Yeah, it's funny. I got tagged in that so many times that I had to figure it out. I've really never really thought about it that much. It's just been how it's been, and I've always been fine with it because you see a team really fight back. If you see a team fight back and earn that overtime, game, and then they go into overtime when they lose. You'd like to see them rewarded, right? Like, you think that's something. Yeah. And so I've never minded it. And now people doing the math and who would be where and talking about Vegas losing so many games and they're still in the playoff hunt even though they're losing all these games in overtime. I think they have 14 overtime losses or something crazy like that. I still don't mind it. I think because the game's exciting and those overtime points mean something and you fight for those. And I just don't mind seeing a team get rewarded for it. Especially when you see teams come back from 2-0 and then still lose in overtime. It seems right to reward them, but I'm also fine with them not. I guess it just depends on where you're at in your life with that. I enjoy watching hockey. I enjoy watching teams really fight back for that extra point. And then a lot of people saying that it should just keep going 3-on-3 and no shootout. I disagree with that. Especially with the NHL, the way they're running this 3-on-3 right now, it comes like a soccer match where possession is everything, and they'll circle back and leave the zone. That was such a no-no growing up. Like old school hockey, you never lost the zone. It was a battle. You took that ice and you keep that ice. And it's just funny, so many people getting so technical with overtime, and I like it just the way it is. How about you?
I do too. I frankly have no problem with it. It surprised me a little bit because I thought, when I first started, watching hockey, I just, you knew the scoring was a little different, but you just grew up in a world where it was 3 for a win and 0 for a loss, and to go 2-1. Frankly, I do think it's okay to have a consolation prize walking away from a game that you fought your butt off to get into overtime, and even a team that may have had a collapse like. If you're Utah and that game goes into overtime against Carolina, you still lose it. You're like, all right, well, that sucks, but we still got a point out of it. And so I think that makes the end of games, end of regulation really matter more because teams realize, look, if we can just get this to OT or if we can hold it to OT, we still come away with a point. So I think it makes those end of regulations really, really matter.
Yeah, especially in your conference, right? Like if you can keep a point, you don't want to give both points to a conference opponent. So if you can battle back and at least get 1 point out of that game where you've done everything you can, or I think it's. But then again, that clogs up your conference. So again, I see both sides of it. I like it the way it's at. I like to see guys get rewarded for hard work and comeback wins, but on the flip side of that, you're still rewarding the guys that had the comeback loss even.
So, all right, Bill Armstrong listed he has Team USA. Now, I don't know if he just said this because he knows he's on radio in Salt Lake City, but he listed Team USA as his favorite going into the Olympics. Are you prepared to do that, or do you still have to lean Canada?
No, I'm USA all the way, and I would say that they were my favorite even if they forgot to build a roster. I would still figure they were, even if they had the roster just all AHL guys. But no, I really do I like the team. I like the way they built it. I think they could use that scoring punch with Robertson. He's one of the just most gifted scorers in the NHL right now. A ton of fun to watch. USA just looks good, and I think when you start looking at the Tkachuk brothers, the funny thing is I really would have liked to have seen Keller get a chance to play with both the Tkachuks since they grew up playing together. They're best friends. And you got to imagine there's a lot of chemistry there. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point you see that during the Olympics, just to see how it works at this level. But I think, it's basically still the Four Nations roster. They made a few changes to it, but I think they made it a little bit better. I'm going to say the U.S. takes gold. You got to Canada. We keep talking U.S. and Canada, but, Finland and Sweden have been doing great too. So there are other teams we got to worry about, but I'm going U.S.
Well, yeah, that was my next question. If you're not able to take Canada or U.S. and pick a winner, who do you take?
Oh, man. I'm going to have to go with Sweden. They're just so gifted. Finland's really come a long way. And, we can't look past Czechia either. Czechia has a really strong lineup too. Good goaltending, as we know, as Veggie fans. I honestly don't think Veggie is going to be their starter. But I think the Swedes probably would have to be the favorite right there. But, yeah, I think it's U.S., Canada, and then probably Sweden or Czechia would probably be third and fourth.
Awesome. Hey, Jay, you're the best, man. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Go USA.
Let's do it. Jay Stevens does tremendous work, host of the Utah Puck Report on KSLSports.com. All right, gather around the radio, folks. Kalani Sitake joins us next, right here on The Zone.
You're listening to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This here's a jam for all the fellas. Try to do what those ladies.
Yeah, I know we're all reeling a bit. Hans Olsen has moved on into the corporate world, and we will eventually get ourselves a co-host. It's going to happen. Until then, we got a bunch of people rolling in that we're going to work in over the next few days. Tim Lacomb's going to join us in studio for the next couple days, and then we got a bunch of other guests that are going to be hanging out with us as well. But it's time to talk a little BYU football. Kalani Sitake, kind enough to hang out with us. He is the head coach of BYU. Coach, how are you?
What's going on, Scotty?
I'm doing well. I'm missing my guy a little bit. I'm not going to lie. He's a big presence, and it's a tough role to fill.
That's true, but you probably have more food now.
I don't know, man. He was getting way into the health kick near the end of it. So he tried to drop some LBs, true. And I don't know, but apparently he still will steal food off of Greg Wrubell's plate every now and then. Hey, when do you get a chance to really look back on a season? Because now, you know, your season ends, the bowl game ends, and it's right into portal season, and you have very little time to decompress. Is there a moment where you can look back and really appreciate the great season you had?
Yeah, I think the moment to do all that was basically going into the bowl game, the prep, seeing all the seniors that spent so much time and energy and a lot of their effort to help the program come along, and then, you know, just that's when I've been able to reflect on it, and then that's why I think in the bowl game, just go have as much fun as we can, because we owe it to those guys, you know, to show our appreciation and to have a great time playing the game. And then, fortunately for us, we were able to come out with a victory from that game in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and just really just honored that I get to be around such wonderful young men, and especially the senior class. They've done an amazing job with our program.
You know, I remember Kelly Papinga playing a year up at Utah State and then going to BYU and seeing his career develop. Did you feel pretty quickly when Jay Hill was talking to the University of Michigan that Kelly was going to be the guy?
I did, and I knew about K-Pop back when he was a player, but then just watching him, we were able to stay in touch during his coaching career, and I just really, really, more than anything, just seeing him and his reputation that he had as a development type coach and also a recruiter, and then being able to have him here with me and seeing his leadership and just seeing his style, I really like it. I think we are aligned in so many ways when it comes to leadership and when it comes to a philosophy of football, especially here at BYU. And so it was an easy transition, easy decision for me to make. Obviously, I had to do my due diligence and then listen to and talk to others that were interested. But when it's all said and done, he was the first one that came to mind, and he was the one that made the most sense. And I'm actually really, really happy that he's been able to take the reins as the defensive coordinator and to work in a collaboration with the group that we have in that room. I think he's going to be able to do a great job of building what Jay Hill has been able to do here with what Gennaro has done here in the defensive backfield. I think he's done an amazing job hiring and organizing a staff that's going to take us to even new heights and defensively do some really good things. And so K-Pop's the right guy. He has all my support, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I've been really pleased with what he's already been able to do since getting the job.
Well, you guys have been so great defensively over the last several years, and I know that you want to obviously maintain that success and take it to another level. How much do you encourage him to put his own fingerprints on this as well? Because obviously there's a system in place that's been successful, but you also want him to expand his horizons a little bit and put his touch on it.
Of course. I think he's got to be his own person. We don't want him to be another version of someone else. And so as long as he can be real with himself and do what he likes, I do know that he doesn't he doesn't want to do it all by himself. So he understands the room that he's in. There's a reason why we have great people in that room that he can work with. And then he also knows how to complement things. I mean, it's what he did as a coach throughout his whole career and what he's done even as a coordinator with special teams. And I think he's going to be able to do it really, really well as a defensive coordinator. His leadership style is unique. And I think all he has to do is be his best self every day, and we're going to be able to benefit from that. I mean, I love the person that he is. I love the husband that he is, the father that he is to his girls, and that's all going to play into what he can do for this program and what he can do in this new role as defensive coordinator. He's going to do a great job there, and I have a lot of confidence in him.
Well, you mentioned the support around him. Gary Anderson's not going anywhere. Chad Kahaha's kind of upgraded his role with the team as well. Those are some incredible defensive minds that you've got there to support him as well. That's a great safety blanket for him to have, and a great, and yourself included, somebody to bounce ideas off and really help in his development.
There's a lot of great ideas there, and there's like I said, there's great things that Jay did for us, and so it'd be foolish for us to just think that we're going to just kind of start brand new and do our own thing, and that's not what Kelly wants. K-Pop wants to build on it, but we've also got new players in the mix. We've got some guys that we brought in from high school and some guys that we brought in from off the mission. We also have a lot of returning players that can really help on our defense, and then we complement them with the ones that we got from the transfer portal. So there's going to be great competition. We just need to figure out what's the best scheme that we can do. And you look at the imprint on our defense, it's got all kinds of influences, whether it's from Kyle Whittingham, Gary Anderson, Bronco Mendenhall, Rocky Long, Dave Aranda, who they've worked with at Wisconsin and Utah State. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going into this program. That it's just not just one coaching tree. It's a combination of it all, and these guys are experts at making it, applying it to the talent that we have and the skill that we have on the team currently on the roster.
Gennaro leaves some tough shoes to fill. Tell us a little bit about Lewis Walker and what you expect out of him, and what you impressed you and Kelly when you had a chance to chat with him.
Well, I know Lewis on a personal level. I mean, he played for me when I was a coordinator at Utah. He's a young man that his family moved from California to Salt Lake City when he was in high school. He went to Judge Memorial High, and maybe was overlooked a little bit in recruiting. And he earned a scholarship to go to University of Hawaii, and went out there and got to eat some poke and hang out with the Islanders and play some football. And then after a couple of years of playing there, he made the decision to transfer back home and play at Utah. And so I've been able to see him and just bet on himself and then even know that there's a recruiting mistake, that we made a mistake, and that he still had the humility to come back and to want to be part of our program. And I loved coaching him, and then seeing him progress from a player to a coach, and seeing the things that he's been able to do at a high level. I mean, we just got him from North Dakota State. He was returning to North Dakota State after having a stint there earlier in his career. He's been a coordinator at the FCS level too. So he's done some amazing things in the last decade that he's been able to coach. And I'm excited, man. He knows our system. He knows what we expect from our cornerbacks. He's going to do an amazing job there. And then you complement that combine it with what we have from Demario Warren, Demo, with our passing game coordinator and our safeties coach. It's going to be a great dynamic to work with. Demo was a head coach. He comes from Boise State, where he coached the corners there, and he's coached a lot of different positions. He's been a coordinator. He was at Southern Utah for over a decade. I mean, 6 of those as the head coach, and he was a coordinator at Southern Utah when Gennaro was his corners coach. And so, he's been there. He's helped mentor Gennaro. So we have a good dynamic in the backfield, a great front to work with. As you mentioned before, Gary Anderson's involved. Chad Kahaha, who's coached a lot of sacks in college football, and a lot of sacks that are being made in the NFL right now. And then you have Sione Poha, who actually made some plays and played in the NFL and started. And that combination on the staff overall is going to be really, really good.
You talk about the culture of your coaching staff and finding guys that fit that culture. Your locker room has developed such an impressive culture over the last several years as well. When you're out there trying to recruit and you have such a small window in that transfer portal to figure out who you want to bring in. Obviously, talent's the most important thing, but do you feel like you have enough time to evaluate the player as a person to see if they'll be a good fit inside that locker room when it's kind of a mad dash to get the best player available?
Of course, I think there's enough that you can do as a coach and to find out who this person really is. Everybody wants to put their wants to impress with what they do when you meet them in person, but it's actually we go in a deep dive on who they are, and I'm always interested in listen, these guys are young men, so they're not all that perfect, but you got to see their work ethic. You get to see the type of sons that they are, the brothers that they are, the teammates that they are, what they do in school, how they interact with their classmates, and even how they interact with the opposition. So when all those things are considered, you also have to see the potential that they can do, not just on the field, but also in life. And so I just want to coach a bunch of good kids, and I want to be able to coach with a bunch of good people that are with me, and that's the goal is to have them be good-natured, and then at the same time try to find the ways that we all stay and hold each other accountable, but we all stay humble and then be the best versions of ourselves. And that's the goal. And we're all human, so there's a chance that we can all become entitled, including myself. And it's good to have good friends that are there that you just don't. The relationship that we have with our players it's a great one, but I don't want it to be like, hey, I say you do. It's like I'm willing to do it. If I could, I would love to backpedal, but I can't. But maybe you could do it for me, and we work together and collaborate together, and it can be a beautiful thing.
Well, I think your best recruiting job was your locker room that you kept for the most part in place. What does that say about your culture? Obviously, there's a financial aspect to it, and I don't necessarily want to get into that, but to have a culture where I'm sure these guys are getting DMs and phone calls from all across the country saying, hey, join us, hop in that portal, we got a spot for you. But to have these key players say, no, I want to come back to Provo. I want to continue to build what we built there. What does that say about that culture inside that locker room?
Well, I think it goes right back. There's a lot of variables that go into it, a lot of factors that go into the culture. It's not just one thing. But when you look at it, I will start by saying the players in the locker room, the leadership that we have on our team, that's the key. Those guys, they want to run it back, as they've been saying. They want to do it again. They know that they're a part of something just way bigger than themselves, and then they have a platform that they want to just be able to help others. Man, I'm just so lucky that I get to coach great young men that are great leaders and that are great in this brotherhood that we call BYU football, and then they can see that there's just way more to it than just football. There's a lot of different things that they can do in life, and they can enhance and exalt others around them. And so it's great for me to coach these guys and be around them, but that's probably the number one factor. Then you put in the fans, the interaction, you put in the staff and the coaches, the relationships that we have with alumni and everybody involved, and it's really tough to say no to. And I know, I mean, I was in the same position as a lot of them. So it's and once you just see it for yourself, it's a beautiful thing, man. I'm going to tell you that. I wish I knew all the answers to it, but I would guess that those are the factors that matter the most. And compensation comes in a lot of different ways. A lot of people want to talk about money and things like that. Well, what's the price for having people you can really count on to be friends for the rest of your life? People that actually want you to do well. What I love about our team is that when somebody scores or makes a big play, look at his teammates and how they react to it. Even the ones that are on the sideline, they're even happier than the person that's actually doing it. And I don't know if that even comes down to anything specific other than I get to coach great young men that are raised by awesome families, and that's I'm the one that gets benefit from it.
Coach, appreciate it. Enjoy this recruiting class and spring ball. Look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Scotty, you keep having fun, man. And I like that Scotty and Friends thing. That's pretty cool. And then as long as you keep bringing in the oldies, because we're old now, young MC, keep doing that, then you'll always have a great fan base to follow you. Love you, brother. Thank you.
Hey, I always know you're back at you, Coach. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. There he is, Kalani Sitake, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hard-pressed to find a better human being on the planet than that guy. All right, and by the way, good poll on the young MC, Lloyd. You knew Kalani was going to be all about that. That was
maybe a little MC
Hammer. That was a layup
on
your part, but still smart. Yeah, but MC's a little cliche. MC Hammer, young MC, that's awesome. You're on a mission and you're wishing someone could cure your lonely condition. All right, we'll take a break. Come back, wrap this bad boy up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're listening to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Yeah, I don't know. As we rework the show, Lloyd just said in my ear, I don't know if this is our closing song.
No, it's definitely not.
You may be right on that one.
No, it doesn't feel like it. I just grabbed, I was like, no, this isn't working. I don't know what to do with my hands right now.
No pun intended. Yeah, I get it. I know, and it just feels weird that we're not playing a little Starship, wrapping up the show. But we'll figure it out. By the way, you've got an opportunity. By the way, if you listen to JJ and Alex, they're going to give out a keyword. Every show's giving out keywords, and it's your chance to win a 75-inch TV. Now, there's some big events coming up this weekend. Right? You've got certainly opening ceremonies, some big game coming up on Sunday that we're not allowed to say by name, but you know what I'm talking about. So all you have to do is be listening. Coming up during JJ and Alex, you'll hear a keyword. You go to ksl.com/contest, enter that keyword. That gives you an extra chance to win, and then we'll continue to do that throughout the week right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Fun show. Remember, if you missed any of it, it's available for you on podcast form. Just search Scotty G on your podcasting platform of choice, and you will have all the interviews, all the insight, everything downloaded directly to your phone, tablet, whatever you're using. And if you just want a specific interview, you just want to hear the Bronco Mendenhall interview, the Kalani Sitake interview, Jay Stevens, whatever the case is, you can also just download individually as well. We got you covered. However you want to consume the show or consume the content, we're here for you. We got your back. All right, Utah State basketball. It is a late tip-off, 8:30 pregame, 9 o'clock tip-off here in the Pit in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We'll have all the play-by-play for you, and then back with you tomorrow on the show. Again, thanks for joining us. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. JJ and Alex coming up next.